Bring her to my room. The order landed like glass hitting marble. Sharp, certain, impossible to ignore. No one answered. No one moved. Only the echo did, sliding along the corridor until it found me. I didn't turn at first. Habit. When men spoke like that, silence was safer than sound, but the air changed. Heavier. Slower. Even the hum of the generator seemed to wait for permission to breathe. I looked up. He stood at the far end of the hall, half shadowed by the chandelier's light. No bodyguards, no gesture, just presence, the kind that rearranged the rules of a room without needing words. Someone else, out of sight, hesitated. Sir, she's just staff. I said bring her. The voice wasn't raised. It didn't have to be. They call that tone authority. I call it curiosity wearing a crown. Footsteps approached. The security man stopped 2 paces from me, unsure if he was protecting me or obeying. I set down the cleaning rag and straightened my back. I can walk, I said. He looked relieved. They always do when you make the hard parts easier for them. The hallway stretched longer than usual. Marble, gold, the faint scent of smoke drifting from somewhere it shouldn't. I counted my steps. 8 to the elevator alcove, 4 more to the suite door. Counting keeps panic in rhythm. He didn't look at me when I entered. He was by the window, city lights caught in the cut glass of a tumbler he hadn't drunk from. Tall. Perfect suit. The kind of quiet that made other people confess. The door shut behind me. That was fast, he said, almost to himself. They usually need a reason. I didn't answer. My uniform was still damp from bleach. I could smell it mixing with his cologne. Amber, smoke, something too expensive for apology. Do you know who I am? No, I said, and I don't think I'm supposed to. He turned then, slow enough that I saw a calculation, not menace, in the movement. Dark eyes. No heat in them, only study. He didn't undress me with his gaze. He dissected the silence between my breaths. You work nights? Yes. Why alone? Because it's easier not to owe anyone. That made him smile, faint and thoughtful. Honest, he said. That's rare here. Honesty gets you fired, I answered. But lying feels worse. He set the glass down, untouched. The click against the marble table sounded louder than it should have. You can go, he said finally. I blinked. That's all? For tonight. It should have been relief. Instead, something colder slipped behind my ribs, unease shaped like a question. People like him didn't summon people like me for nothing. As I turned to leave, he spoke again. What's your name? Lucia. Lucia, he repeated, as if testing how it fit inside the silence. Go home safe. I didn't answer. The elevator ride down felt longer than the walk up. When the doors opened, the night air hit like confession. I should have forgotten the sound of his voice right then. But memory has its own loyalties. Outside, the city glimmered with too many secrets. I walked past the parked cars, past the security lights, until I could see the reflection of the hotel in a puddle by the curb. Its brightness fractured. Beautiful, unreachable. Somewhere above, he was still awake, and I was already part of something I didn't understand. People think danger begins with violence. They're wrong. It begins with interest. That night, mercy looked like danger. Morning comes soft in Naples, even for people who don't sleep. The sea makes sure of it, light moving across the water like forgiveness pretending to be routine. By the time the gulls start circling the harbor, I'm already awake, folding my son's uniform, boiling coffee I won't have time to drink. Matteo sleeps curled against the wall. 8 years old and already dreaming like a man, jaw set, fists loose, trusting the dark. He says I hum when I think he's asleep. He's right. The sound keeps the walls from feeling hollow. I work for the Miracoli Hotel. Polished marble, chandeliers heavy enough to make prayers nervous. The guests never see us, the ghosts who keep it shining. We pass through side doors, talk in whispers, hide our own reflections in the glass. They say it belongs to a company, but everyone knows which name isn't written on paper. D'Angelo. In Naples, that name can buy anything except rest. I used to think silence was freedom. Now I know it's only credit, something you borrow until the world collects. By noon, I'm back in the service corridor. Bleach burns the air. Radios murmur schedules. The other women talk about raises, about sons who found work in Rome. I smile where I should. I keep my own stories folded inside the pocket with my rosary and keycard. There's an envelope in my locker. No name, no mark. Just one line written in ink too elegant for warning. Stay careful, Lucia. The handwriting curves like it has somewhere important to go. I tear it once, twice, drop it into the trash, but the letters stay in my head long after the paper's gone. Careful means someone's watching. Careful means the night wasn't an accident. After the shift, I walk Matteo home through the market street. Fishmongers shout, scooters hiss past, everyone pretending the city doesn't belong to anyone. He tells me about school, about a story where a knight saves a queen without killing the dragon. Maybe the dragon wasn't bad, he says. Maybe it just wanted to be seen. I tell him he'd make a good lawyer. He says I'd make a bad liar. We laugh, but something in me stirs, the sound of a lighter clicking shut, the way that man said my name as if it mattered. At home, I hide the last of the money in a sugar tin. Rent food, the rest for emergencies. Every bill smells like the past. My husband's debts didn't vanish when he did. They just changed hands. Men came once a month back then. Polite, smiling, patient in the way storms are before they break. Now it's only one man who collects, and his smile never reaches his eyes. Marco Carli. He says he works for the D'Angelo family, but I know he works for himself. When he knocks, you open. When he leaves, you breathe again. That's the arrangement. Tonight, there's no knock. Only rain. I sit by the window while Matteo draws on old receipts. Blue ink castles, stick figure soldiers, a sun too large for the page. He hums under his breath. I match his rhythm with my heartbeat. Outside, thunder grumbles like a warning delivered late. The city smells of metal and seaweed. From here, the hotel lights look like constellations. Each window a story I'll never tell. I wonder if he's still awake, the man with the calm voice. Rafael D'Angelo. Even saying his name feels like stepping into forbidden air. He didn't touch me. He didn't threaten. He just looked, and something in that stillness followed me home. I tell myself it's curiosity. But curiosity has a pulse, and mine is running too fast. Later, when Matteo sleeps, I wash the uniform again. Bleach erases fingerprints, not thoughts. The hallway replay loops behind my eyelids, the glass, the order, the pause after my answer. There was no cruelty in his eyes, but no peace either. Men like him don't look at cleaners unless something inside them already hurts. I whisper a prayer I don't believe in. Keep him far from me, Lord, or make him harmless. The thunder answers. Some prayers are jokes the sky doesn't get. The next day, the supervisor calls me in. She doesn't sit. That's how you know it's serious. There's a change, she says. You'll be assigned to level 12 for a while. Private floor? Special client request, level 12. The one we're told doesn't exist on the schedule. The one with guards at both ends. Who requested? I ask, though I already know. She shrugs, handing me a new ID tag. It came from upstairs. Take it as a compliment. Compliment. That word fits like broken glass in the mouth. On the way out, I pass the trash bin near my locker. The envelope is gone, but the ink memory whispers the same two words. Stay careful. I think of Matteo's drawing, the dragon under a too bright sun. Maybe the dragon wasn't bad. Maybe it just wanted to be seen. When night comes again, I'm back in uniform, back in the corridor where Marble remembers everything. Somewhere above, the same voice might be waiting, deciding whether curiosity is a risk worth taking. I smooth my gloves, breathe once, and start up the stairs. Because in this city, you don't rise. You're summoned. And I had already been called. Level 12 doesn't appear on the staff map. It exists between floors, like a secret that pretends to be an address. When the elevator doors close, they whisper instead of slide. The keycard light turns green, then dies, as if what waits above doesn't need to be recorded. The hallway smells of wax and money. No music, no voices, just the thrum of air conditioning that sounds too deliberate to be accidental. At the far end, 2 men in suits stand by a glass door. I recognize one, the security guard from that night. He nods once, not friendly, not cruel, just aware. Inside, the suite looks nothing like the rest of the hotel. No gold, no mirrors, no flowers. Everything dark, expensive, controlled. Windows tinted against the sea. A piano stands silent in the corner. Keys shut tight. He's at the desk, reading something that isn't a letter, wearing a shirt the color of dusk. When he looks up, the room forgets how to breathe. "You came," he says. "I was told to." Still honest. He gestures to the chair opposite him. I don't sit. The uniform creases differently when you sit, and I want to stay ironed, untouchable. He studies me the way a surgeon studies an X-ray. Not for beauty, but for weakness. "Do you know what people say about me, Lucia?" I try not to know things that aren't my business. Wise. A pause. "They say I collect debts and keep promises, which sounds fair until you realize the two don't always agree." He leans back, waiting for a reaction. I give him none. He almost smiles. "Do you believe in fairness?" "I believe in rent." That earns a quiet laugh. The first human sound I've heard from him. It startles both of us. He opens a folder, slides a paper across the desk. It's a maintenance schedule with my signature at the bottom. Someone's added a red mark beside a date, 2 nights ago. "You were on this floor then," he says. "Late, I was cleaning the upper hall. I heard glass break. You were the only one nearby? And you think I broke it?" "I think nothing. I verify everything." "So verify." He doesn't answer. Instead, he reaches for a lighter. The same click I remember. Flame blooms, then dies, leaving only the smell of burnt air. "The glass," he says, "belonged to someone who owed me an apology. He left before giving it, so I'm the replacement? Maybe the reminder." The words weigh more than they sound. I glance at the door. The guards outside have turned their backs, which means they're listening harder. "Why am I here, Mr. D'Angelo?" He folds his hands. "Because I don't like coincidences. And because Marco Carli mentioned your name this morning." The room sharpens. I don't know that man. I lie too quickly. He watches the lie form and fall. "You should learn to lie slower," he says softly. Fast lies sound like fear. My stomach knots. If he mentioned me, he's mistaken. Maybe, or maybe he's using you to get to me. Either way, you're in the middle now. I didn't ask to be. No one does. The silence that follows is long enough to count heartbeats. Then, unexpectedly, he lowers his voice. "You have a son." The way he says it, gentle, certain, turns the air to ice. "I keep files on my staff," he adds quickly. "It's not a threat." It sounds like one. He hesitates, almost guilty. "He goes to Santa Lucia Primary?" I nod once, throat tight. "You should pick him up yourself tonight. Don't send anyone else." "Why?" "Because when men like Marco get impatient, they look for soft targets." He looks away then, as if realizing mercy feels too much like exposure. When he speaks again, his tone is business again. "I'll make sure you're protected while you work here." I don't need protection. You do. You just hate the word. He stands, signaling the conversation's end. I still haven't sat down. The folder closes with a sound like a verdict. At the door, he stops beside me. Up close, his presence feels heavier, but not unsafe, like standing near a storm that's learned self-control. "Lucia," he says quietly, "if anyone asks, you never came here. Understand? I understand everything except why. Because I don't want Marco to think I have weaknesses. And what am I? Evidence that I might." The elevator ride down is slower than before. Each floor number flickers as if deciding whether to let me out. When the doors open, the supervisor pretends not to look relieved. I walk past her, straight to the staff washroom, lock the door, and let my breath escape for the first time. The mirror doesn't lie. I look the same, hair tight, collar straight, but my eyes have changed shape. They're not afraid. They're awake. By evening, rumors crawl through the staff corridors. Someone says the boss was seen with a cleaner. Someone else says the cleaner's in trouble. Both versions feel half true. which means both are dangerous. At home, Mateo senses it before I speak. He always does. Bad day? Just long, I say. He nods, goes back to his homework. But later, when I think he's asleep, he whispers, "Mom, if a man scares you, tell me, okay? I can bite." I smile in the dark. Deal. The city hums outside, restless and bright. Somewhere, the D'Angelo Hotel glows above the water, and I realize I'm no longer invisible. Someone has written my name into their war, and curiosity, once awakened, doesn't fall back asleep. Naples breathes differently when it rains. Streets shine like glass, and every reflection looks truer than the face above it. That morning, thunder hid behind the hills, waiting its turn. I arrived early. Habit. If you move before anyone needs you, no one remembers to own your time. The lobby smelled of wet umbrellas and perfume that cost more than mercy. Someone had left newspapers on the reception desk. Front page, D'Angelo interests acquire new shipping line. Power buying more power. Nothing new. By the time I reached level 12, the air had already chosen sides. Rafael wasn't there. Marco Carli was. He leaned against the doorframe of the suite, cigarette in one hand, smile in the other. "Working early," he said. "Good girl." I kept walking. The corridor stretched like a held breath. He followed. "Don't be rude. The boss hates that. I didn't realize you cared about manners. I care about what costs me money." Smoke drifted around him, thin and gray, the way guilt travels. "You've been spending a lot of time near his office." "It's where they assigned me." "Sure." He dropped the cigarette into a vase. "Assignments don't change without reason." "I clean," I said. "I don't question. You should start. Questions keep you alive." The way he said alive made it sound negotiable. He took something from his jacket, a folded photograph. My stomach recognized it before my eyes did. Mateo, leaving school, backpack half open, laughing. The image trembled in his hand like a threat pretending to be kindness. "You've got a beautiful kid," he said softly. "You should be careful whose debts you pay off." I snatched the photo. "Where did you get this?" "Information is part of my job." He smiled wider. "So is leverage. Is this a warning?" "A favor. The boss doesn't protect forever. Sooner or later, he'll forget you were useful. Then what? I don't belong to him. Everyone belongs to someone." He brushed imaginary dust from his sleeve. "You've been promoted, Lucia Moretti, whether you asked or not." He left before I found words strong enough to throw. The photo burned in my palm. I folded it smaller still, until it was only edges. Then I swallowed air, the only thing that wouldn't choke me, and kept working. At noon, Rafael returned. Same suit, same calm. Only his eyes betrayed the night he must have lost. "Lucia," he said, "walk with me." We crossed the balcony above the port. The city stretched below, unaware of our moral geography. "I heard Marco spoke to you." He showed me a picture of my son. He stopped walking. Wind clawed at his coat. "He threatened you?" "He thinks he did." "And what did you do?" "I kept cleaning." Something flickered behind his expression. Not anger, not fear, but something rarer. Regret. "Marco's careless," he said. "He's been questioning orders. Yours?" "Yes," I folded my arms. "Then maybe the problem isn't him. Maybe it's the orders." He looked at me, half amusement, half warning. "You're not afraid of me." "I am. I just learned to function while afraid." Lightning blinked far out at sea. He leaned against the railing, voice low. "When my father was alive, he said power is only real if it costs you sleep. I haven't slept since. You could try forgiveness. I'm not built for it. Neither am I. But I fake it for my child." He turned, studying me again. But this time there was something gentler in it. A man recognizing a mirror. Then the sweet phone rang. A guard hurried out with a message. Rafael took the call inside. I waited in the hall, staring at the rain crawling down the glass. Voices rose behind the door. Marco's name, my name, and then silence. When Rafael came back, his expression was stone. "What did you tell him?" he asked. I told who what. "Marco says you asked him for help." That you wanted protection. That you offered information in exchange. My throat went dry. He's lying. He says you met him near the market last night. I was home. With your son. Yes. He exhaled. Long. Measured. If you're lying, then finish the sentence, I snapped. Say what happens. He stepped closer, enough that I could smell smoke clinging to his sleeve. I don't punish the innocent, he said quietly, but I don't ignore betrayal. Then check your facts before you ruin another life. For the first time, he looked uncertain. And for the first time, I saw fear. Not of me, but of what mercy might cost him if I was telling the truth. Go home, he said. I still have hours left. Go. I left without a word. The corridor echoed with footsteps that weren't mine. Behind me, a door shut like a verdict. Outside, the storm had arrived for real. Lightning lit the statues along the plaza, saints watching crimes they'd already forgiven. I walked until the hotel disappeared from every reflection. When I reached our apartment, Mateo ran to me, barefoot, proud of a drawing he'd made. A knight with no sword, standing between two monsters. Which one wins? I asked. He grinned. The one who doesn't fight. I kissed his forehead and tasted salt. From rain, from fear, from the kind of truth children speak without knowing. That night, sleep came in fragments. Every time thunder rolled, I heard Rafael's voice again. What did you tell him? And underneath it, Marco's whisper. Everyone belongs to someone. By morning, the sky had drained to silver. I found a new envelope under the door. Inside, no words, just a shard of glass wrapped in tissue. Sharp enough to cut, clear enough to reflect. I held it to the light until I saw my face split in two. One half still believed in mercy. The other finally understood the price. I didn't mean to go back. By noon, the city had boiled the rain into steam. I told myself I was walking toward the market, toward errands, toward anything that wasn't level 12. But my feet knew the truth. The only way out was through the room where the order had been born. The guards didn't stop me. One nodded without meeting my eyes. Someone who'd learned the difference between rules and orders. Rafael's door was open. He stood at the window, jacket off, tie loosened. A ledger lay closed on the desk. A single sheet of paper sat beside it like a witness. You came back, he said. You told me to go home, I answered. I didn't, he turned. We didn't pretend to be anything but tired. We need to talk, he said. We need to listen. He gestured to the chair. I sat. The room adjusted around the decision. I checked, he began. Cameras, logs, witnesses. You didn't meet Marco? I know. He forged a record. Because he needs you to see me as a weakness. And because he wants me to break my code. His eyes held mine. He wants me to hurt an innocent so I stop pretending I am one. You're not innocent. No. But you don't have to be cruel. He let out a breath he'd been saving for years. You talk like the church I stopped believing in. I talk like a mother who wants to outlive her promises. He slid the paper across the desk. The maintenance schedule again. My signature, the red mark, now clipped to a camera still. Marco at the staff terminal at 2:07 a.m., fingers typing, no reason to be there. Will you fire him? If I fire him, he becomes someone else's weapon. Then what? I move him. Away from you. Away from my temper. That won't stop him. I know. We spoke softly, because softness made the truth bearable. He used your son's picture. Rafael said, yes, there are lines I don't cross. Lines I don't let others cross in my name. He crossed it. Yes. Then your code is either a story you tell yourself, I said, or it's a door you stand in front of. He almost smiled. You don't owe me the freedom to speak this way. I don't owe anyone anything I can't explain to my child. He nodded. A decision clicked. You're right. Agreement from a man like him felt like gravity changing direction. Protect your son, he said. Today, I always do. Not like this. I'll send a car. No. If a stranger shows up, the school calls the police. Then every rumor becomes a case file. He considered it. Then I'll go myself. The boss of Naples arriving at a primary school? They'll think the board is donating a library. Are you? If it keeps your son safe, yes. It wasn't the money that stunned me. It was the way he said it, as if generosity were just another weapon he could wield without cutting himself. Why involve yourself? I asked. He looked past me toward the window where the sea pretended to be harmless. When I was 17, men came for my cousin because they couldn't reach my father. They mailed a picture. My aunt stopped eating. My father called it business. I called it a debt he never paid. That's when I learned control is a form of love and a form of punishment. I've been paying interest ever since. He met my eyes again. No performance, no defense. Just a wound that never closed. You think mercy will make you weak? I said. I think mercy chooses who dies. Then choose carefully. The intercom buzzed. A guard's voice. Sir, Marco is here to see you. Rafael didn't look away. Send him up. I can't be seen here. You're not a secret. You're a person. Don't make me a symbol either. Stay behind the screen. I moved to the shadow by the piano, where the light thinned. The door opened. Marco entered with that smile he wore like a bruise he wanted to share. Boss, he said. You asked for me. Rafael didn't offer a chair. You forged a staff log. Who told you that? The camera. Cameras lie. Only when men move their hands. A flicker in Marco's eyes. If you don't trust me, say it. I don't trust you, Marco laughed, surprised. That's new? What's also new is that you used a child. Information is leverage. My code is not a rumor. Codes are for men who can afford them. Rafael stepped closer. And consequences are for men who can't. Are you threatening me? I'm remembering who I am. Family doesn't talk this way, Marco said. Family doesn't point knives at a boy. You're letting a cleaner define your lines, Marco snapped, truth slipping. She's in your head. Silence turned sharp. I didn't move. Neither did Rafael. You will not speak about my staff, he said. Your staff? Marco scoffed. Or your weakness. Get out. If you push me away, I'll have to choose where to land. I've already chosen for you, Rafael said. Savona, shipping oversight. Effective tonight. Exile. Employment. And if I refuse, then you announce yourself as my enemy. Marco's smile vanished. He measured odds, measured pride, then smoothed his jacket and nodded once. As you wish, he said lightly, the way men speak when they're already planning a funeral. When the door closed, the room felt larger. I stepped from the shadow. Rafael looked at me for a long breath, as if confirming I was real, and not the conscience he'd invented to justify a decision he wanted to make. You stood your code, I said. I stood in front of it, he answered. That's harder. You moved him, not ended him. Mercy, he said. After a beat, strategy, both. He allowed a small smile. Both. We stood without talking while the city sewed itself back together beyond the glass. Somewhere a horn called from the port. Somewhere a bell told the hour to be brave. I'll pick up Matteo, he said. I'll be there. You trust me? No, I said, and felt something loosen. But I believe you. What's the difference? Trust is sleep. Belief is a chair you sit on while you keep your eyes open. He nodded. Then believe in me for 1 hour. I can do 1 hour. He took his jacket, smoothing the sleeves, building armor from fabric and memory. Lucia, he said, at the door. Yes. If I fail you, I fail myself. Then don't. We stepped into the hallway, not as allies, not as strangers, but as two people who had agreed, for a limited time, to be seen. The elevator descended like a verdict learning to be merciful. Outside, Naples sparkled as if daring us to keep our promises in public. Let's go, I said, and he did not lead. He walked beside me. The school bell rings like a memory trying to sound ordinary. Children scatter, their laughter spilling into the courtyard like coins tossed into a fountain. I wait by the gate, heart steady in theory only. The sun glints off the iron fence. every bar a reminder that protection and prison share a shape. Rafael's car appears just before dismissal. Black, understated, the kind of expensive that pretends to be humble. He steps out alone. No guards, no spectacle. Parents turn curious. Teachers whisper. He could be anyone. A father, a politician, a sin in a suit. Mateo spots me first. He waves, backpack bouncing, face clean of fear. Rafael kneels as if the boy's height demands reverence. You must be Mateo, he says. I'm a friend of your mother's. Mateo studies him, cautious but polite. You don't look like her friends. Good, Rafael says. I'm trying to be better. The teacher laughs softly, unaware of the irony. We walk together toward the street, pretending the world allows such simple scenes. When Mateo runs ahead to chase a pigeon, Rafael's voice drops. Marco left the city last night. Left or vanished. Left for now. I sent him to Savona. If he stays gone, he lives. And if he doesn't, he'll force me to become my father. He says it like a confession he can't take to church. You said your father died for hesitation, I remind him. He did. But I've started to wonder if it was something holier than weakness. We stop at a cafe corner. The sea wind smells of salt and diesel. Mateo presses his face against a display of pastries, smiling. For one impossible second, I believe we're normal. Sit, Rafael says. We'll talk inside. The cafe is small, empty, the kind of place where silence earns its keep. We order espresso and a lemon soda. Mateo hums to himself, drawing on a napkin. Boats, sun, a tall man beside a shorter woman. I pretend not to notice. Rafael studies the drawing too long. Then, he has your eyes. He has his own, I answer. They just borrowed mine. He nods, fingers tracing the cup's rim. When I was 16, I found a ledger in my father's desk. Every debt, every payoff, every death he bought with money. At the end, one line in his handwriting. If I ever love again, destroy this book. He looks at me. I destroyed it that night. He was still alive. The confession sits between us like a candle, small but dangerous. Why? I ask. Because I thought love was his flaw. I thought if I burned the proof, I'd never inherit his weakness. And did it work? I became him anyway, minus the honesty of regret. I don't know how to answer. He saves me from trying. Last night, he says, I asked my lawyer about you. The records of your husband's debt. He didn't owe the family. He owed Marco personally. My pulse stumbles. That's not possible. He was paying them every month. Marco collected under my name. I never saw a cent. So my husband died for his greed? Yes, the word lands quietly but hits like thunder. Outside, gulls scream over the water, sounding too human to ignore. I told myself my husband was weak, I whisper, that he gambled or lied, that the world punished him fairly. I built my strength on that lie. Rafael shakes his head. You built it on survival. Lies are just scaffolding. The cup in my hand trembles. Coffee spills like a bruise spreading through linen. I scrubbed blood out of our hallway the night they brought his body home, I say. I told Mateo it was rust. Rafael looks away. I can make Marco disappear. Will that bring back what he took? No, but it will stop him from taking more. And what about you? He looks puzzled. What about me? You let men like him thrive until they touch something you care about. That's not justice. That's convenience. His jaw tightens. Be careful, Lucia. I am, I say. You taught me. The silence that follows is heavy enough to bend the light. Finally, he speaks. You think I'm the villain. I think you're the reason the villain exists. He almost smiles. That's the same thing. No, I say. You still have choices. He leans back, exhaustion leaking through control. I envy your faith. It's not faith. It's desperation dressed politely. Mateo looks up from his drawing. Are you fighting? Rafael answers first. No, we're telling the truth. Good, Mateo says. Truth makes dragons friendly. I laugh despite myself. Rafael's expression softens, almost wonder. He nods to the boy. Your son is wiser than all my advisors. Don't tell him that, I say. He'll charge by the hour. When we leave, the sun hangs low, orange melting into copper. Rafael opens the car door for Mateo, then turns to me. There's one more thing you should know, he says quietly. Your husband wasn't the only one Marco used. He's been selling our records, names, routes, accounts to outsiders. The family's safety is compromised. If I move against him, the city shakes. So don't move. Reveal. Reveal. Let his secrets see daylight. Men like him can't survive transparency. He studies me, surprised. You'd make a dangerous strategist. I'm already a dangerous mother. He laughs softly, then sobers. If I follow that advice, everything changes. Maybe it should. We stand there, traffic sliding past, history folding between breaths. Matteo waves from the back seat. Rafael glances at him, then at me. I burned one ledger, he says. Maybe it's time to write a different one. Write it in truth, I say. I will. But truth always charges interest. He closes the car door, voice dropping to a murmur only I hear. Thank you for reminding me I still owe. As the car pulls away, the street feels quieter, like the city itself is listening. I watch the reflection of taillights in the puddles until they fade into nothing. The sea wind picks up again. Salt, exhaust, and something new. Hope, maybe. Or danger learning to forgive itself. Night again. Naples holds its breath, the sea too still for honesty. The streets shine with the kind of rain that doesn't fall. It lingers, waiting for someone to deserve it. Raphael's message reached me before midnight. We need to talk. Alone. No location. Only coordinates. The kind of precision men use when they want to sound in control of chaos. I left Matteo asleep with the neighbor and walked, umbrella closed, as if the storm were something I owed. The address led to the docks, his empire's edge. Warehouses, cranes, water black as ink. A single light burned in an upper window. Inside, the air smelled of metal and salt. He stood near a shipping ledger on the table, sleeves rolled, a revolver resting beside a glass of untouched whiskey. Not a threat, a confession already loaded. You shouldn't have come alone, he said. You told me to. I didn't think you would. Then you don't know me. He half smiled, then turned serious. Marco's back in Naples. The words barely landed before my pulse answered. You said, I know what I said. He's not here for me. He's here for leverage. My son. Yes. Something inside me cracked without sound. He noticed. I have men at the school, he said quickly. He won't get close. That's what you said before. This time I'm not hesitating. Maybe hesitation was the only thing keeping you human. He slammed the ledger shut. I'm done losing people because I waited for decency. The echo hit the walls, came back smaller but sharper. I didn't move. You think decency killed your father? I said quietly. It didn't. Greed did. He stared at me like the truth was a foreign language he almost remembered. Then his shoulders dropped. I don't know how to stop, he whispered. Every mercy turns into a weakness someone uses. Then stop calling it mercy. Call it love. That's worse. Why? Because love doesn't end. It just costs. He turned away, fists against the table, breath uneven. I walked closer, close enough to smell smoke and exhaustion. When I first saw you, I said, I thought you wanted to own me. I did, he admitted. I wanted to own every unpredictable thing. You were the only one who didn't flinch. I was terrified. Exactly. He laughed once, broken glass of a sound. You were afraid and still met my eyes. Everyone else pretends courage. You just survived. I've been surviving too long, I said. It doesn't make me brave. It makes me tired. He looked up. Then rest. Where? Here, I shook my head. In your world, rest is ransom. He took a step closer. Then I'll pay. No, I said, voice trembling but steady. That's not what I want. What do you want, Lucia? The question hollowed the room. I didn't answer right away. The silence between us stretched until even the sea outside seemed to listen. I want someone who doesn't mistake my silence for consent, I said finally. I want a world where mercy doesn't need permission. And I want you to stop pretending control is anything but fear in a tailored suit. He closed the distance between us until there was only breath. I am afraid, he said. Every minute. Then say it like a man, not a myth. His eyes glistened, anger and relief indistinguishable. I'm afraid, he repeated, softer now, of losing what little I understand, of wanting something gentle in a place that kills gentle things. Then don't kill it, he exhaled. You make it sound easy. It's the hardest thing you'll ever do. He lifted the revolver, not toward me, but toward the sea beyond the window. Marco sent a message, he said. He wants me to meet him at the pier tomorrow, alone. You'll go. I have to. No, I said. You choose to, he lowered the gun. If I don't end it, he'll keep coming. End what? The man or the cycle? The difference stopped mattering years ago. Then let it matter again. He looked at me as if I'd offered something priceless and dangerous. You'd really forgive what I am? I'd forgive what you were, I said, but only if you stop pretending you can't change. He stepped closer. The storm outside broke through a crack in the window, a single drop landing on his wrist like proof of vulnerability. He reached for me, slow, deliberate. No command, no demand, just a man asking the air for permission. I didn't move away. His hand brushed mine, cold turning warm. Lucia, he whispered. I don't deserve this. Neither do I said. But maybe that's the point. For a moment, silence became language. His breath trembled against my forehead. Mine answered. If anyone had walked in, they'd have mistaken it for a kiss. It wasn't. It was something rarer. Two people admitting defeat to honesty. I've spent my life owning things, he said. Buildings, names, fear. You're the first person I can't own, and that feels like peace. Then keep it safe, I said. He nodded once, eyes closing as if memorizing the sound of trust. When he opened them, he looked younger, or maybe just unarmed. I'll face him tomorrow, he said, but not as my father's son. Then as who? As the man you made remember mercy. I touched the sleeve of his shirt, small, almost nothing. Don't make it about me. Make it about the boy you once were. He's still waiting to be forgiven. He swallowed hard. Will you wait too? I'll wait, I said. But if you don't come back, I won't raise Matteo on stories about noble men who died for pride. I'll tell him you finally chose peace. He smiled then, faint and broken, but real. I'll come back. I hope you don't promise that, I whispered. Just mean it. Outside, lightning split the horizon, briefly turning the sea into a mirror. For a heartbeat, I saw us reflected in it, two figures made of contradiction, holding each other's ghosts. Then the thunder followed, and the light went out. Dawn unfolds like forgiveness no one asked for. Naples glows silver where the sea meets sky. Two mirrors learning to trust each other again. I haven't slept. The house smells of coffee and storm. Matteo dreams in the next room, one hand open, as if holding something too gentle to drop. I wait for news, but silence has its own schedule. Every sound, footsteps outside, a car starting, the kettle hissing, feels like a messenger deciding whether to knock. At 7, the phone rings. It isn't a call. It's a heartbeat with wires. Lucia, his voice. Calm, roughened by salt and decision. You're alive. For now. Wind on his end. Gulls. The pier. It's finished. Marco? Gone. A pause. Not dead. Just gone. I gave him a choice. Run or drown. He ran. That's mercy. That's exhaustion. He breathes out. You were right. Ending the man would have fed the myth. Letting him live with truth hurts worse. What happens now? I settle debts, close accounts, sell silence back to the city. Maybe I'll even sleep. And your code? He laughs softly. I broke it to keep it. Does that count? It counts more than keeping it to break yourself. Another pause. Laughter somewhere behind him. The sound of dock workers greeting daylight. You should see the water, he says. It looks clean for once. Maybe it's reflecting you. Don't make me holy. I wouldn't dare. We say nothing for a while. Words are too small. Finally he says, I'll come by tonight. Not here, I answer. People watch. Then somewhere no one looks. The church near Via San Giovanni. After closing, I'll find it. He hangs up before goodbye can ruin the courage. Evening finds the city pretending nothing ever happened. Children chase each other through alleys. Vendors shout. Music rises from balconies like proof that normal is louder than grief. I light a candle in the small church, wax pooling like melted hours. The air smells of dust and hope. Same thing, really. He arrives without sound. No suit, no guards. Just a man in a dark coat carrying the kind of quiet that used to frighten me. You kept your promise, I say. I had to see the proof that mercy survives daylight. We sit in the last pew. The stained glass window above us paints his face in fragments. Red for sin, blue for sorrow, gold for everything we never were. Do you still run the empire? I ask. It runs itself, he says. I'm dismantling it piece by piece. Selling ships, cutting ties. They'll call it weakness. I'll call it peace. And when they come for you, they'll find nothing left to steal. You really think you can just walk away? I'm walking toward. He looks at the altar, empty except for the candle I lit. You said once you prayed for me to stay harmless. I did. It worked. No, I whisper. You did. He smiles, small, human. Then pray again. For what? For me to stay gone when I finally leave. I don't promise. Some prayers deserve disobedience. He reaches into his coat and sets something on the bench between us. The shard of glass wrapped in tissue, unbroken now, edges smoothed by time. You kept it, I say. It reminded me of what I almost became. I had it polished. Thought you should decide what it means now. I hold it up to the candlelight. Where it once split my reflection, it now bends it gently, two halves meeting at the seam. I think it means we survived, I say, or that we stopped pretending survival was enough. He stands. Goodbye, Lucia. The word lands clean, without echo. I stand too. You'll tell Matteo? He nods. When he's older. Tell him his mother taught a sinner to rest. He turns toward the door. Outside, evening leans toward night. The air hums with quiet forgiveness. At the threshold, he stops. One more thing. Yes? If you ever hear someone say my name, don't look back. That version of me is gone. I believe you. Belief, he says, is the first mercy. And then he's gone. No footsteps, no engine, just absence. Later, at home, Matteo shows me a new drawing. A dragon sleeping under a bridge while a boy stands guard above it. Why is the dragon asleep? I ask. Because someone finally told it it's safe. I kiss his hair and stare out the window. The harbor lights shimmer against the water. Fewer now, dimmer, softer. Somewhere beyond them, a man I once feared is learning how to breathe without command. I let the silence stretch, not as punishment, but as peace. The glass shard catches, the lamplight on my table glowing faintly, proof that broken things can still protect. For the first time in years, the city feels quiet enough to belong to its people again. I close my eyes. Mercy, I realize, isn't the opposite of power. It's what's left when power finally gets tired. And tonight, that's enough. There are two kinds of silence in this world. The one that hides fear, and the one that heals it. I used to live inside the first. Now I listen to the second like a song I'm still learning the words to. Days pass without headlines. No bodies in alleys, no whispers in hallways. The D'Angelo. Empire dissolves quietly. Assets changing hands, ships renamed, money turned into mercy before anyone can notice. Power doesn't vanish. It retires under softer names. Sometimes I see Rafael's reflection in the city itself, in a man helping an old vendor lift a crate, in a child's laughter echoing through an empty port, in the way Naples exhales at sunset, relieved to be ordinary again. He promised to leave, and I believe he did. But belief doesn't erase presence. It turns it into air. People ask why I still work at the hotel. Because the floors remember me, and I owe them honesty. Because every stain I scrub away reminds me of the night I stopped belonging to fear. Because I don't need escape. I need peace where I already stand. Sometimes the manager walks past and nods, the kind of nod reserved for those the world underestimated once. He doesn't know I keep the glass shard in my locker, its edges dulled, its surface catching light like forgiveness with teeth. It doesn't wound anymore. It reflects. Mateo is taller now. He laughs like he isn't afraid of losing things. At school, he writes essays about truth. He says dragons can be protectors if someone teaches them to listen. When he brings his drawings home, they smell of pencil and hope. I hang them near the window where sunlight blesses every mistake. In quiet hours, I think about codes, the rules men invent to survive the weight of their own stories. Rafael's code began with punishment and ended with mercy. Mine began with silence and ended with voice. Maybe all redemption is just the distance between those 2 points. I don't romanticize what happened. Love didn't save us. Choice did. He chose not to destroy, and I chose not to disappear. Between those decisions lies a space big enough to build a future. When I walk home after late shifts, the city hums beneath my steps. Church bells count time not by sin, but by forgiveness. The sea smells less of iron, more of memory. And I understand something my younger self never could. Power isn't who commands. It's who stops the command before it harms. Once mercy terrified me. Now it anchors me. It demands courage every day. To forgive without forgetting, to remember without reopening the wound, to speak softly without surrendering truth. I still dream of that first night, his voice, the order, the echo. Only now, when I hear "bring her to my room," it sounds different. It isn't domination. It's recognition. It was the beginning of a story about 2 people learning that control can disguise hunger, and hunger can disguise loneliness. Both heal only when named. If someone were to ask me what became of him, I'd answer this: he became human. That's rarer than sainthood. There are rumors, of course. A foundation built under his mother's name. Anonymous donations to orphanages. A ship moored in Palermo that sails without cargo but pays its crew double wages. None of it surprises me. Men who learn mercy rarely retire from it. One evening, I take Mateo to the pier. The water is calm. Gulls stitch the sky back together. He throws a pebble that skips 4 times before vanishing. "Do you think it reaches the other side?" he asks. "Everything does," I say. "Eventually." He smiles, satisfied with an answer that isn't quite true, but feels right. Children forgive physics more easily than adults forgive themselves. As night settles, I realize I'm no longer waiting for footsteps behind me. The corridor in my mind, the one that used to echo with orders, now holds only quiet. And in that quiet, I hear the smallest sound. Breath. Mine. Unhurried. Whole. If I were to tell this story to someone else, I'd leave out the danger, the names, the empire. I'd tell it as a parable whispered between mothers. Even power can learn mercy. Because mercy, once learned, teaches everything else. How to look without taking, how to hold without hurting, how to leave without erasing. I walk home through streets that remember storms. The city lights flicker on, gold against the blue. Each lamp hums with something close to prayer. And I understand that redemption isn't a miracle, it's maintenance. Quiet, daily, uncelebrated. At my door, I pause. The key turns easily. Inside, the air smells of soap, of sleep, of a life rebuilt from gentleness. Mateo's drawing hangs crooked on the wall, a dragon curled around a candle. I straighten it, smiling. Outside, the sea keeps its rhythm. Inside, I keep mine. Mercy breathes. Morning again, Years later, or maybe just another kind of dawn. The Miracoli Hotel stands unchanged, though time has smoothed its arrogance. The marble still shines, the chandeliers still flirt with light, and somewhere a cleaner still hums against the echo of her own footsteps. I walk those halls sometimes, not to work, but to remember. Memory, after all, is another kind of labor. The corridor where everything began looks smaller now. Maybe I grew, or maybe fear makes architecture look larger than it is. The glass that, once shattered, has been replaced, but the reflection is softer, kinder. It no longer hides the people who pass. It holds them. I stop where he once stood. Same window, same silence. Outside, Naples stretches awake, forgiving the night for ending. If anyone saw me, they'd think I was daydreaming. They wouldn't know I'm saying goodbye for the 1,000th time. I never saw Rafael again. That's how real peace works. It doesn't visit, it releases. But sometimes, when gulls circle the harbor at dusk, I hear a faint echo, a voice remembering itself. Bring her to my room. And then my own memory answers. That night, mercy looked like danger. It still does sometimes. But now I know that danger was just mercy learning to walk. Matteo is grown. He studies architecture, wants to build homes that last longer than regret. He says design is about knowing where light should fall. I tell him that's all life ever was. He laughs, says I sound like a poem pretending to be a person. Maybe I am. He doesn't remember much about that time, only that the city used to feel louder. When he asks about Rafael, I tell him the truth that fits in his world. A man helped us once. Then he left to become better at helping others. Matteo nods, accepts it, and returns to his sketches. He doesn't need the details. Some stories survive better as kindness than as fact. Sometimes, when I open my locker at work, the shard of glass still catches light. Its edges are smooth now, but it shines the way healed skin shines. Proof of survival, not erasure. I keep it as reminder. Power can wound, but it can also protect if it learns how to bend. Outside, Naples lives loudly again. Markets shouting, scooters weaving, sea breathing. I stand at the doorway and let the noise pass through me instead of over me. For years I mistook quiet for safety. Now I know peace can roar. Before I leave, I wipe one last window. My reflection looks back. Older, yes, but also freer. The uniform no longer feels like disguise. It feels like choice. Each motion, cloth to glass, breath to surface, writes an unspoken prayer. May I never forget what silence cost. May I never forget what mercy gave back. The last streak disappears. Outside, the morning light lands exactly where it should. On the sea, on the city, on the lives that refuse to stay small. I whisper to no one. Even power can learn mercy. The words hang there, gentle as steam, before dissolving into air. And the silence that follows isn't empty. It's full of every heartbeat that survived, of every truth that stayed soft without breaking. I walk out into the brightness. The marble under my shoes remembers, but it doesn't echo anymore.